Folks, wow, what a terrific pleasure it is to have Joe Hurley in the studio. Joe was the gentleman that I was referring to earlier this morning, who, along with Travis Lindhorst, have compiled 10 Million Steps on Route 6, a beautiful book, a fresh look at America and Americans from Cape Cod to California. My goodness, is this ever beautiful with photographs and stories, and it's filled with so much goodness. Joe, welcome aboard. Nice to have you here.
It's great to be here.
Thank you, my friend. You are a former newspaper reporter who made most of your career in Danbury, Connecticut.
Correct, the far side of the state.
Well, you know, I like Danbury. It's a very, very nice area.
Been there. You've been there?
Yes. Oh, sure. I have friends. In fact, a dear friend of mine, Father Carloutsos, is the Greek priest there in Danbury. So he's been there for a long time. So I have a lot of friends in Danbury. But let's talk about 10 Million Steps on Route 6. First of all, whatever inspired you to walk across the country?
Insanity, for one thing.
Insanity is good. I like that. Other than that?
I was a reporter and a columnist for the News Times in Danbury. Mm-hmm. And I noticed all these towns across the other side of the state, on the eastern side of the state, that I never knew existed. I didn't know there was a Brooklyn, Connecticut, or a Scotland, Connecticut. And I just thought it'd be a good idea to walk across the state and tell people about the rest of Connecticut. We did that with chief photographer David Harple, and we walked 20 miles a day, 6 days, and covered the state. We just happened to pick Route 6 by accident. It happened to go from the eastern side, cut up through Hartford, and ended in Danbury, so we said great road.
And so that started something that turned into a national trek.
Yes, what happened is after I'd finished the walk, I wondered where Route 6 went. And I saw that it went all the way to the end of Cape Cod. And I said, wow, because in Connecticut, it's just a little tiny, we have a picture there in the introduction to Connecticut. Every chapter has an introduction. Right. And it's just a tiny, you can see it's farms and everything else in Connecticut. And even here in Massachusetts, even though it's more developed, it's still a 2-lane road in most places. So I saw that and I said, wow, it's a big road. And then I looked to the west and I saw it went all the way to California. And I said, wouldn't it be a great idea to do what we had done in Connecticut, tell people about the rest of the country? Just
like that, the idea popped into your head.
Yes.
Did your wife think that you were nuts?
She had already thought that. That was. No, I always.
She's sitting behind us, yes, folks. So it's not. I'm not taking anything out of order here. Yeah. Pat, come on over here and say hello to us. So this began the 10 Million Steps on Route 6,
yes, which is the longest continuous road in the country, by the way.
Now that I did not know. What was surprising the most about the beginning of your journey? Anything at all?
About the beginning? Well, yes. I can say one thing about the beginning of the journey. I was surprised at how quickly I got tired. I was tired before I finished the first day of the trip. I said, this is going to be a long duration, yes. And I was surprised, I was shocked by how vacant Provincetown was. We started in March, and of course I come from the Boston area, so I'm used to Provincetown being like Times Square on New Year's Eve. I got there wasn't one person on Commercial Street. There was only one restaurant open downtown. So I was shocked by that.
And as you began walking from Provincetown, now you're going to go the full length of the Cape, right?
Right.
Anything of that stands out in your memory on the Cape?
On the Cape, there was that bookstore that had books from everywhere in the world. I forget the name of it.
In Sandwich, maybe?
It was in Sandwich, I believe.
I know which one you're talking about.
And that was
That's on
remarkable.
Route 6A.
6A, right.
Yes, I know
and
which
just all of those small towns. Of course, when you're a visitor coming to the Cape, you go straight down Route 6 down the middle of the Cape.
Right.
You don't go 6A.
That's right.
And what a wonderful road that Route 6A is.
It really is.
Before I forget, I know you're heading west, but I do want to get a little bit into New Bedford. Bedford because...
Oh, we're going to go into New Bedford.
All right, then I'll save my fire.
Oh, we certainly are going into New Bedford because we had local coverage of you. And in fact, over in the other office, Pete Braley's over there. Were you on the radio as you were making your trek? Did any media come out and interview you?
There were a lot. There was a lot of that. Not so much in New England, actually.
Okay.
As I got further west, and of course we wrote. What we did is Travis and I. Travis took the pictures. I wrote the stories. Once a week, we filed stories and pictures with a dozen newspapers across the country. That gave us some income, but it also let people know we were coming. So we would get people coming out for parades and dinners, and also they would greet us very well.
Yep. The book, 10 Million Steps on Route 6. My dear listeners, Joe Hurley, along with Travis Lindhorst, have compiled what is really a beautiful, beautiful book to absorb a lot of the feelings of America and Americans from Cape Cod to California. You, in the beginning of the book, show what an odd bridge the railroad bridge is.
Yes.
And just last week, that was the site of fireworks for the 100th anniversary of the Cape Cod Canal.
I heard about that, yes.
It was a canal-anniversary. All right? And now we turn the page, and on page 18 of this beautiful book, you have a photograph of our historic fishing port and the Witch of Wall Street as you enter New Bedford. Tell us about how New Bedford struck you.
Well,
had you been here before?
Possibly, but I doubt that I'd ever spent any time downtown.
Okay.
We had... You can't help but be struck by the seaport as you walk in. It's right there. And it's a beautiful, beautiful seaport as far as I'm concerned. The picture says that, too. And we did go to the big museum, of course, the Whaling Museum.
Yes, of course.
But then we wound up on this across the street just about, and we talked to this woman, Edith Nichols, who was portraying Hetty Green, which I suppose people around here are familiar with, but I knew nothing about.
Yeah.
And that was a tremendous experience to meet her.
Absolutely right. And in this beautiful book of yours, Edith Nichol, by the way, passed on.
Yes.
And you make note of this. You also spoke with Arthur Mata. And how long ago did this trip take place?
It was actually 10 years ago, but we didn't do the book until 2 years ago.
Why the span of time in between?
I had a publisher, but my book was like the last thing in their to-do list, I think. So they would every once in a while they'd say, "Get your stuff together. We're going to work on the book now." And I'd do all my stuff, and they'd ask for some changes, and then I wouldn't hear from them for a year. And then they say, "Okay, we're ready now. Here's some more changes for you." And that went on for several years.
Yeah.
And we finally said, "This isn't working out." So we did it on our own, Travis and I.
This kind of theme, if you recall back Travels with Charlie, this kind of theme, you may wonder, why would somebody in Idaho be interested in saying goodbye to Lincoln Park in Dartmouth, Massachusetts? But there is a link here. There is historic and a lot of interest that Americans have about their country. What did you find on this theme? Is there
there's two sides to that theme. Number one, people are very interested in seeing what the rest of the country is like, of course. But they're also interested in seeing what their section of the country looks like to somebody else's eyes, from somebody in a different section of the country.
Interesting.
Even though I'm from Boston, this is we don't get down this section of the country, state too much.
Right.
So, and as I noted in the beginning, I didn't even know my own tiny state of Connecticut.
Yep.
Before you move on from New Bedford, though, I did want to mention Your Dog Hut. I don't know if even you know about that. Maybe you do. It's a little tiny Portuguese restaurant.
The Dog House.
Is that what it's called?
The Dog House, right off of Coggeshall Street.
Yes.
Of course.
I just happened to wander into it. And, I had never had kale soup. Kale soup, how do you say it? Kale soup.
Yeah.
My wife would know better than I.
Yeah, I'm going to ask her in a minute. How did you come across the Dog House? this?
It just happened to. I don't think I was on that street. I was a street over. I saw some local, public works guys.
Sure.
Fixing a street, and I said, "Where's a good place to grab a bite?" And they said, "Go there."
Right there, and they sent you to the right place. You know, the Doghouse has been an institution in our locale for years. In fact, Mr. Benoit's dad started the restaurant. We're going back a full generation, and then his son took over. And if you want real hamburgers, where you pat them out with your hands and put them on the grill, you know what I mean, Pat? You go to the Doghouse, or pot roast, or homemade meals. Reasonably priced. Where can you find? Did you make the trek with your husband? Come on up here by the microphone. Did you walk alongside him?
No, I didn't.
Why?
She's smarter than I.
She is smarter.
I walk 2 miles a day.
What did you think of his idea to walk across America?
Well, we thought it was dangerous.
Yeah.
My daughter and I.
Yeah.
And then, I think he expected me to go along and drive at one point.
And what was your reaction? Did you initially?
Well, we have a 2-family house, so someone had to stay home.
So that was your way out.
She picked and chose her spot. She visited me in Chicago, in Denver, Los Angeles,
Pennsylvania.
the glamour spots.
Were you out of shape when you began this?
No, actually, I was playing basketball.
Okay.
And actually, somebody I was playing basketball with before I began said, you can eat whatever you're walking 20 miles a day. You can eat whatever you want. And you'll lose weight.
Well, I want to ask you.
I followed his advice to a T. I started eating everything I wanted, got to Pennsylvania, stepped on a scale, and said, I haven't lost any weight.
I want to ask you about the different cuisine that you tried across the country, but what dangers, as long as Pat, your wife, brought them up, did you face?
Well, I did see some wolves cross the road in front of me, maybe 100 yards in front of me in the desert in California.
Wolves?
Wolves. And I spent the rest of that morning looking back over my shoulder as I went by. Of course, I was petrified as I walked by where they had crossed. They crossed. They didn't seem to care. They weren't hungry, obviously. They would just cross the road and never looked at me or anything else. But I kept looking back, wondering when these wolves are going to attack me from behind.
Yeah.
So I was scared then.
Yeah.
There was a snowstorm in Nevada. And when I was crossed the Rockies, when I had crossed the Rockies, I thought, well, it's going to be all downhill and warm from here. That's how much I knew about the West.
Right.
I knew Los Angeles and Las Vegas. And I got caught in a snowstorm. I'd gone to the top of a mountain. Travis dropped me. The way it worked is Travis would drop me off in the morning. I'd walk 20 miles. He'd pick me up at the end of the day.
I see.
And so he dropped me off. I walked up this mountain, and there's a snowstorm. First snowstorm of the trip. And I didn't think it was on a road called the loneliest road in the United States. 120 miles, 160 miles to the next town.
My goodness.
And what I was afraid of is that he wouldn't be able to get up over that mountain again during the snow, and I'd be stuck there. So that was a scary time.
What kind of things would you bring with you for this 20-mile-a-day walk? Did you have a backpack?
Oh, I had all sorts of stuff in the beginning. I had brought lunch and drinks and Powerade and all of that sort of stuff in the beginning. When you're here in New England and you can't go 5 miles without running into a convenience store. By the time I'd gotten to the west, where the towns are 20 miles apart, I was traveling light. I had my water, and I had some, a little bit of nutrition, and that's about it. And as little clothes as I possibly needed.
What's that, Pat?
A Camelback bag.
I see. And when you were going across the country, what parts of America stood out as really truly treasures that we hardly ever think about? Any surprises like that?
I was surprised. I wouldn't know if you call it treasures, but I was surprised by Nebraska, because being a newspaper reporter and filing stories every week, I got to Nebraska and I said, I hope I can find some stories here in Nebraska. And the place was just filled with stories.
Give us one.
One would be the State House. It was... it is probably one of the best state houses in the U.S. It's a piece of art. The whole place is a piece of art. Also in Nebraska is a place called Pioneer Village.
Yeah.
It was created by Harold Warp, the developer of plastic wrap. So he was wealthy. In the 1950s, he realized the world was changing a lot. So he started saving things, all sorts of things. And when he was done, he had 30 buildings filled with stuff.
How interesting.
He had one building with nothing but one Ford for every year of their existence. Another building with all Chevrolets every year of their existence. Early planes that would look like bicycles. He had a building with rooms. A living room from the 1850s, a dining room from the 1860s, a kitchen from the 1870s, all the way up till the mid-century.
You captured the flavor of every locale, the culture of a Dartmouth, of a New Bedford, and also of the Promised Land, California, Nevada, and all the places in between, the Rocky Mountain Heights. What do you think brings all of this together and makes America great?
People, of course. And I think at one point I called this I don't even remember the name of it now, but the people are different in many ways. Before I started the trip, people who lived in the Midwest told me, you're going to find the people in the Midwest quite different than the people in New England and the Northeast because they are so much more friendly and open. And that's true on the surface. I think it's absolutely true. When I walked through all of New England, I had maybe 3 or 4 people stop, all of New England and New York, and say, are you okay, you need a lift? By the time I got to Pennsylvania, and by the way, the folks in Pennsylvania consider themselves part of the Midwest.
Oh, really?
It doesn't look like the Midwest. You got mountains and windy roads and trees.
Isn't that
but they
interesting?
think of themselves as the Midwest, and they are much more open and friendly. Every day I'd have somebody stopping. And by the time I got to the real Midwest, they'd be 3 or 4 times a day I'd have somebody stop and, hey, how you doing? And sometimes not because they think I'm in trouble, just because, would you like to talk? But I think it's got more to do with the sizes of communities than it does with sections of the country.
You walked along the roadways themselves?
For the most part, when we had a road as it is here, Route 6 is a major highway, you can always find where Route 6 used to be.
I see.
Because when they built the highways, they didn't build them on top of the old roads, they built them next to the old roads.
That's right. And did you find anything walking along? You know, people throw stuff out of their cars. We're a society that loves to litter, it seems. Did you find anything, any unusual items along your walk?
I did not, but we did have a story from somebody who's considered it his life's work to go along the roads and pick up stuff.
Yeah?
Pick up bottles mostly. And he was way ahead of his time. He was picking up bottles. It's actually, if you look on page 130, you can see it. We didn't get a picture of the guy. Travis wasn't there in time, but he was as you did. He said it's such a wasteful society. People just drive along and throw these things away. I'm just going to read this.
Yeah.
And his name is Ernie Meyer. He said, but that's the values of our country now. They say, what's the big deal about a nickel? And a little further down, he says, one day we're going to wake up and the bottom will fall out. It's going to be just like 1929. I'm just sick about it. This is 2004.
Sure.
Before the crash.
Yep. Interesting. Did you find that people, regardless of where you were in America walking, there were great differences and there were great similarities? What was the greatest difference in people? The greatest difference is the initial openness when you talk to people in the Midwest. We had somebody in Pennsylvania, Ray Sands is his name. I was interviewing. He looked like a mountain man. He had a truck full of stuff. And he had big, long beard, scraggy hair, and the lumberjack shirt. Yeah.
So I thought I'd make a good interview, and I did interview him. And as we were talking, he said, well, we were telling him what we were doing. He said, well, how's the oil in your car? Travis and I have not a mechanic's bone in our body. And we said, well, we haven't checked it since we left Massachusetts. And he said, well, we got to check it. And we said, oh, yeah, sure, we'll do it later. He went over, he checked the oil in our car. It was empty. If we hadn't met him, we wouldn't have made it to Cleveland.
Wow.
And not only that, he went over to his truck with everything in it, pulled out a container of oil, put the oil in our car for us.
Isn't he something
Now,
else?
you don't get that where I live in Connecticut.
No, you don't. By the way, if you're just joining us, we're delighted to welcome Joe Hurley, his wife Pat, and along with Travis Lindhorst, have created a book that is a must-have. Folks, it is beautiful. The stories in it are one of a kind. It's titled 10 Million Steps on Route 6, and a fresh look at America and Americans from Cape Cod to California as Joe decided to walk across the United States of America. And if you're wondering where you might be able to meet Joe, he's going to be signing and, of course, selling these on his tour. Providence. Let's see. Where are you going to be next?
East Providence.
East Providence.
Tonight. Yeah, and it's more than selling. What we do is we do a program. It's about an hour long.
Okay.
And I like to call it a virtual tour across the U.S. on Route 6. People come in. We loan them a copy of the book. And we use that as our roadmap as we go across the country. And what we do is, I know you can't see this on radio, but you can describe better than I can.
You have
we go to these various places,
Yeah.
and we tell them I have a chart here,
Yeah.
and it tells them where we're going and what page it is. They turn to the page in the book, and we have a good time doing that.
I bet you do. And there's everything from People's Palace and Wall of Sorrow and the R&R Hall of Fame and small towns to building collectors and scary cows and whatnot. This is such a beautiful book. Also, you're going to be in New Bedford, and all of these are at libraries, right? Public libraries?
Libraries and all at either 6:30 or 7.
6:30 or so. Okay. In New Bedford, if you want to meet Joe, it's going to be on Thursday, August 7th, this coming, I'm sorry. Is it this? Yeah,
Thursday,
it is. It's
Thursday,
this
right.
Thursday. August is upon us, and it's incredible. This Thursday, 7 o'clock, at what library, Joe? Do you know? Is it the main library?
It's the main library.
Downtown.
Yeah.
At 6:30, folks. You can go by and say hello to Joe and his wife, Pat. You're going to be there, Pat?
Yes, I am.
Okay. That's on Thursday. On August 11th in Dartmouth, that's nearby. It's our next town over. Right. August 11th at 6:30 at the Southwick Library in Dartmouth. And Mattapoisett on August 13th at 6:30. That's at Mattapoisett. In Wareham at 11 o'clock in the morning on August the 16th.
It's a Saturday.
That's a Saturday. And so this is most of course, on the Cape. You're going to be in Brewster on August the 14th. You're going to be in Falmouth on August 12th. We have listeners in Falmouth, 7 o'clock. We also see that you're going to be in Bourne on August the 6th, 7 o'clock. And in Sandwich, you have to say hello to the lady of the bookstore there in Sandwich on August the 5th, 7 o'clock. This is a wonderful way to tour the book and to meet people as well.
Okay, let me add one more, and that's tonight in East Providence.
Tonight.
Right.
All righty. And the library in East Providence is the venue for this. You're going through all of these pictures. I'm sure it was hard to select which ones to include, right?
Right. That's one of the reasons we did the book, is we had so many pictures that we were writing these stories and filing pictures every week on the walk. Mm-hmm. Well, there were so many stories I hadn't done, and there were literally hundreds of pictures that Travis had that he had not, been able to put in the newspapers.
Yeah.
So we said, we got to find a way to get this out there.
When you walked through mining towns, what was it like?
It depends on the town. Most of them were former mining towns, for example. Mm-hmm. One of them was Ely, Nevada. Fantastic little town because it had this old hotel called Hotel Nevada. It was one time the largest building in Nevada. And because before air travel was prominent, mm-hmm. when people were coming from Hollywood or Los Angeles to New York, this would usually be their first stop. first night stop.
Yeah.
And so they had all sorts of famous people stay at the Hotel Nevada, and they have preserved some of that, not preserved, they've kept some of those rooms, they've got the names over them.
Sure.
We stayed in Pat and I, we took a trip out there, we stayed in the Ingrid Bergman room, and all sorts of memorabilia about Ingrid Bergman, and all. If you happen to be in Ely, Nevada, stay at the Hotel Nevada.
See if those earphones are loud enough. I want to take a phone call or two with Joe Hurley. Can you hear okay out of them?
I can hear you.
Okay,
fine.
very good. Let's take a phone call here at 996-0500. Caller, nice to have you with us.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
The bookstore whose name you're looking for, I believe, is Parnassus.
Yes, you
That's
are exactly right. We have a great
right.
picture of the gentleman who was managing
Very
it.
thin on the outside, stretches back forever.
Yes. And it has just about everything in there. The thing I remember he told me is they have, I think, more Russian books than just about any place in the...
They have books in German and in French. Yep.
Yes.
I've been there.
Yes, it's a great place.
Now, our listener calling in is an avid reader. Jay, you would really enjoy meeting Joe Hurley, who actually made 10 million steps part of his lifetime journey.
I didn't know Route 6 extended all the way across the country.
You know what? I didn't either.
Right. I thought it ended in Providence or something.
No, well, that's what surprised me, too. But when it was built, it was the longest roadway in the country, longest highway in the country. It stretched from coast to coast. But in the 1960s, California cut off about 400 miles of the road. It is still the longest continuous highway in the country.
Right.
And they do have, now they have a historic Route 6 that goes again out to the West Coast.
Very good.
I remember when you were walking through this area, we had some folks here at the station and at our local newspaper, the Standard Times.
Which is a sister paper of the Danbury News Times where I worked.
Oh, how interesting.
Yes.
Oh, how interesting. You ought to drop by and say hello. Okay. I'm sure that Bob Unger and the entire staff would love to say hello to you and take a look at this. Thank you, Jay.
Have a good day, guys.
And I hope that you meet Joe Hurley. He'll be once again at the New Bedford Public Free Library downtown on this Thursday, August 7th, 6:30, with copies of 10 Million Steps on Route 6. The front cover is it's a stunning picture. Before we go back to more phone calls, what road, I mean, I know it's Route 6, but where was this taken?
This was taken surprisingly in Iowa. That's one of the surprising things I found. Yes, you think of Iowa as
flat.
So, we crossed the Appalachians and the Rockies.
Yeah.
But those weren't the toughest hills to me. The toughest hills were the ones I did not expect. This is called the Los Hills. It leads to the western side of Iowa. And it's about 20 miles of these short, steep hills, up and down, like a mini roller coaster.
Yep.
And when you don't expect them, it gets kind of, and when the temperature is 110, it's not fun.
No, I bet it's not. Joe Hurley, our special guest, and Pat, chime in any time you want. Caller, go right ahead. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Hi. I purchased 2 of Joe's books online and was very happy to receive them, one for my brother-in-law, one for myself. However, the restaurant that you were talking about is your dog mill on Route 6.
Exactly.
On Kempton Street.
Oh, your dog mill.
Yes, I was thinking your dog hut. It's your dog mill?
Your dog mill, because Phil told me about that after you had been there, and that you were a vegetarian, so you didn't want to have too much of the meat that was in there.
Yes.
But I know you enjoyed it very much, because you told her you did.
Oh,
Yes.
I am so
great.
glad you called in. I'm glad that you called in. Yeah. How did you find the book?
I read the article in the Standard Times and was very intrigued with it. So I contacted Joe online, and I purchased one book for myself. My sister saw it, and she wanted to have a copy for her husband for Christmas, so I sent for another book. And Joe was so gracious, he even sent me a message back. are you sure you want to purchase another one? You've already purchased one. And we assured him that, yes, we did. And I've enjoyed it immensely.
Isn't it beautiful?
It is. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yes.
Love it.
Ladies and gentlemen, you will love everything, the stories, the photographs. It's just the perfect book. Thank you, caller, for calling in, and thank you for that correction.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
When you were saying that, I thought you were just giving me the local name of the the same place.
Not knowing which one you were, I thought you were talking about the doghouse, but then the dog mill is right up near a little diner also called the Orchid Diner. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking of the other one, but what a great. Just different stories here, contrasts. And, I see all of these photographs in here. Bear Mountain. Now, is this the Bear Mountain over in New York State?
It is.
By West Point?
It is over by West Point.
Oh, I loved Bear Mountain.
It is a fantastic place. There's so many things about it. In the book, you'll see a picture of Bear Mountain Bridge.
Yeah.
It's a great place to be. You look up and down the Hudson River, and you might think you're in Europe somewhere.
I know it.
If you go to the Bear Mountain Park, there's a little zoo. There's an ice skating rink. There's a carousel with lots of local animals carved into it.
Yeah.
You go to the top of Bear Mountain, and you can see the skyline of New York City.
That's right,
you can
yes.
drive up to the top, or you can walk up. If you're walking up, you're taking the Appalachian Trail.
Mm-hmm.
But the main thing about Bear Mountain is the lodge. Just a fantastic.
The lodge itself. I want to ask you about some of the places you stayed at, but did you have a chance to enjoy the local, culture? Or was it all business and, 20 miles a day and back on the road the next day?
Oh, no. The thing about this was to meet the people and to see the places.
Yeah.
Walking was just a way to do it. And, of course, walking's a good way to get acclimated and to meet people. What we did 5 days a week of walking. One day was to file our stories and pictures. The other was to do stuff. And a lot of times what we would do is that's when we would tour a town. For example, Arches National Park is not on Route 6, but we went there.
Right.
That sort of thing.
And, folks, if you're just joining us, Joe Hurley is in studio talking about his book, 10 Million Steps on Route 6. He'll be signing copies at the New Bedford Public Library on this Thursday, August 7th, 6:30 in the evening. Also in the area, he'll be in Dartmouth on August 11th at the library at 6:30. He'll be in the Mattapoisett Library on August 13th at 6:30. In Wareham on August 16th, 11 o'clock in the morning. That's a Saturday at the public library there. And also East Providence tonight at 7 o'clock. And, Pat, are you going to be with your husband?
Yes, I am.
Are you sorry you didn't join him?
No, I'm not. It was exciting. He called me every morning.
Yeah.
It was just exciting to hear because I knew it was a lot of country. And I needed people to talk to.
Yep. Did you have a chance to chat with truck drivers along the way?
Yes, I did. I actually started to do an interview with a truck driver at a, who was one of these guys who was in a restaurant big parking area and sleeping in the cab overnight.
Sure.
And his girlfriend or wife came along and said, this is not a good idea. I suspect that maybe he shouldn't have had a friend along with him on the trip. They didn't want to see that in the newspapers.
How many newspapers did you contact?
I think I contacted 20, and we had about a dozen that actually ran the stories and etc.
I see you have a little Russian Orthodox cathedral, little chapel here.
Yeah, and little is the operative word here. It is tiny. You can barely have places to sit there. But you look at that picture in the book and you think this is an opulent kind of place.
Right. And you were through Provincetown all the way to California. Was there any one state that you would move to because of this journey?
No, I like where I am.
Okay. How about the places you stayed at in the evening? What were the different kinds of places?
Well, for the most part, we stayed in hotels, motels, or people's houses when they let us. We found out before the trip. I knew somebody who ran a bed and breakfast, and I asked him, "Well, will we be able to get some cheap or free rooms?" And he said, "As long as they know that you're legitimate." The hotels, and they have room.
Right.
They'll treat you well, and that we found that to be true.
Sure.
We did stay in a teepee. Somebody had
in a teepee.
In a teepee. There's a commercial thing. He made teepees, and he had one outside his house or business or whatever. I would not recommend sleeping in a teepee. You are sleeping on the ground. I'm sure the American Indians had a better way to do it, but all we're doing is sleeping on it. It was hard.
It was hard, I bet.
Later, we did stay on an Indian reservation, and they have it much better.
I see one of your chapters is "Please Don't Pet the Rattlesnakes." That's a little interesting.
Yeah.
We have GAR highways out there as well, huh?
GAR. And interestingly enough, when California lopped off that 400 miles in the 1960s, I guess it was.
Yeah.
As I was walking, you didn't see any more Route 6 signs from Bishop, California on. But you did see signs that said GAR Highway.
Yes.
So even though Route 6 may no longer be a coast-to-coast highway, the GAR Highway might be a coast-to-coast highway still.
Yeah, you never know. We're going through this beautiful book with lots and lots of color photographs. Which one do you have there, Joe?
That's the end of Route 6. There's a sign there
in Provincetown.
No, that's in Bishop, California.
In Bishop, California. It says Provincetown, Mass. 3,205 miles. Oh, my gosh.
And you know what? There used to be a sign like that in Provincetown saying Bishop, California, and apparently it got stolen a few times.
My goodness.
So they didn't put it up. And then last year, I believe, they put it back up, and it's still there.
Oh, wow. I see some iconic photographs of just, everyday Americans standing in front of their general store.
That's a town of, I think, 28 people.
28 people. Any stores that really stood out that were different as you made that trek across the country?
The store that the thing that struck me, not one store, but as you get into the Midwest, they don't seem to have, especially these small towns, they don't seem to have the fruits and vegetables, the fresh. We're accustomed to going in a store and getting, and complaining about how much it costs.
Yeah.
But we have the option of getting all these fresh fruits and vegetables. And the stores there were more like when I grew up in the 1950s. Yes, they were fruits and vegetables, but they weren't, like they just came off the farm. Or
right,
whatever,
right. When you would walk from rural areas into urban areas, like into, let's say, downtown Denver, Colorado, could you tell there was a culture shock or a difference? Did you like it better in a city or out in the wilderness?
It was better in the small towns. They would greet you more. As I said, the people in the Midwest are more friendly, but you get to some of those cities, and they're not quite as friendly as the small towns. And vice versa, you hear. My folks come from New Hampshire, and back in the days when, of course, New Hampshire's changed too, but when you had a lot of those little towns in New Hampshire, they were quite friendly too.
Did you find any resorts or any hotels that probably you'd never find out about it except for walking across the country that you can turn around and say, oh, you have to try this little hotel in the base of the mountains in Nevada or blah, blah, something like that?
There were a lot. The one I'm thinking of now, and of course you would encounter it if you went there, but in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, there's a place, there's a lot of little hotels there, but their calling card is they have the largest hot springs pool in the world.
Oh, wow.
And there's a grand old spa hotel there. We couldn't afford to stay there, but
Yep.
And then there was another one in Pennsylvania, the Riverside Hotel.
Right.
It started, some guy thought he was going to get oil on the property.
Uh-huh.
Couldn't find it, but he found a spring. So he decided it was going to be a miracle spring, and he had people coming there for the cures of the water.
How did you fund this trip?
We started with what savings I had. We used the money we got from our weekly stories from the newspaper, and in the end, I was on my charge card at the last part of it.
Mm-hmm. Did it cost you in the end?
Oh, yeah. It cost me in the end, yeah.
About how much would it, if somebody wanted to do this, would you say for them to save up? 5,000, 10?
Yeah, that would be 5,000 would be a good guess, especially if you're not going to get those free and deeply discounted hotels and you're not staying in people's houses.
Right.
It's 9 months on the road. Figure it out, yeah.
Wow, 9 months.
Yeah.
That's incredible. When you saw your husband from time to time, Pat, did he look any different when he first started than when he ended?
Well, he was. Oh yes, he did. He got rather thin by the time he hit California, Long Beach, California. He was rather thin. His sister said emaciated.
Emaciated. Yeah. What kind of a diet would you have? Was it healthy or?
Basically, because we were very often in a hotel or something, we'd have the breakfast there or with the people we were staying with. Mm-hmm. So that was taken care of. I rarely ate much lunch because I was on the road, especially in the Midwest. If you don't take it with you, it's not going to be there. And then at supper, I would stop and have a sandwich or something like that, a light supper. Mm-hmm. And I don't eat meat. And you go to the Midwest and you try ordering a veggie burger. It's like going into a bar room and ordering a milkshake.
Did any of these places give you advanced publicity, let's say the newspaper in the town, so that when you got to the town, there would be some folks there to welcome you, or cameras, or any kind of publicity of that nature?
Sure, that happened a lot. And of course, we were writing for a dozen newspapers, so they were letting people know. But a lot of times we'd have the local newspapers, a TV station, radio station would come out, and more so, not so much in New England, but as we got out of New England, we had a lot of that. This is just one of them. I know they can't see it, but you can describe it. That's in Meadville, Pennsylvania.
Okay, and there's a flock of folks with cameras around, and obviously you are a celebrity.
Sure. They would have parades for us, and they would have dinners and all sorts of things. As you got to these remember these small towns, you're talking some of them 100 people, 200 people. We were the entertainment for that day.
And
Tell me about the parade. Yeah, Pat.
The kids from the grammar school and in high school followed him and greeted him at an auditorium and wrote poems on his walk. And
no kidding.
Yeah, it was really an incentive at the...
Did anyone want to join you and finish the walk with you?
Not finish the walk, but I would have people walking with me a lot.
Really?
Some part of the walk, etc.
Yeah. Did you find that nice or more of a hindrance?
Well, it helped pass the time. Sure,
yeah.
It was good.
Yeah. Would you listen to radio, or did you have...
Didn't have that. Didn't carry... I got smart, as I remember I told you, I carried all the stuff in the beginning. By the end, if I didn't need it, it wasn't on me.
Uh-huh. And your entertainment was just looking around.
Yeah, there was a lot to see.
I'm sure there was a lot to see. If you had to do it over again, walking from Provincetown to California, would you do anything differently?
Oh, I'm sure there's a million things I'd do differently. But you know what? People ask me, well, what do I need if I take a long journey like this, bike or walk or whatever? What you need is luck.
Luck.
Yeah, because especially if you're on a schedule like we were. We started in late March. We had to do 100 miles a week in order to get across the Rockies before the snow.
Yes.
So if I had gotten sick, or Travis had gotten sick, the car had broken down, anything had happened at home that we had to go back, the trip was over.
How about inclement weather? You'd walk regardless?
Walk through the rain. I like to tell people about we started in mid-March. It rained pretty constantly out through Pennsylvania, Massachusetts to Pennsylvania.
Yeah. And when in bringing this home now for folks who want to come out and meet you, I'll give that schedule in just a minute. I want you to step away for just a moment, Joe Hurley. You're a reporter. You obviously know how to communicate through the written word. What did you learn about yourself by taking this journey?
I would say I learned I was probably tougher than I thought I was. And I got put in my place several times, however, when I started to, you go through these things and people pat you on the back and you say you're a great guy and that sort of thing. I met a woman in I can't think of the state, Nebraska, western Nebraska. I'm walking 20 miles a day. She was running 50 miles a day from Denver to Chicago, and she did that every year. She did a trip like that, and I've forgotten her name. Essie, I forget her last name.
Elderly lady?
Elderly, somewhat elderly. I will find a picture.
Because I remember reading a story about an elderly lady who did something similar to this, but she didn't think of you as a celebrity.
Oh no, she didn't know I existed. We just bumped into each other. We happened to be in the same town, McCook, Nebraska, at the same time. And I think we had dinner together or something like that. And she was doing it for charity. Every year she does these charity runs.
Yes. Wow. What did you learn about your husband, Pat, through all of this experience?
Well, he was certainly adventurous.
Did you know that when you married him?
Yes, I kind of did, because he was interested in starting a taxi newspaper.
A taxi newspaper?
From Boston. Yes, that was what he was interested in. It was when I met him, and he was at BU Journal School.
I drove a taxi to get my way through college.
Interesting.
It didn't exactly work out as far as a taxi newspaper. It got no further than an idea in my head.
Did your successes either on the road, walking across the country, or in life happen because of well-planned, executed thoughts, or by the seat of your pants?
Yeah, the quick answer is absolutely not well-planned. I don't well-plan very much.
And what has it taught you about life then?
Got to be lucky. As I said with this trip, if I had known that, if I thought about it and said, gee, if I get sick or hurt, this trip is over, I probably wouldn't have done it. Like many things in life, if you knew what they entailed and the risks you're taking and the things that could go wrong, you probably wouldn't do them.
Do you have anything else planned in the future?
People ask me if I'm going to do another long walk, and I say, I will do another long walk with you. And you do the walking, and this time I'll be in the car.
You'll do the reporting.
Yeah, I'll do some. I won't be doing the walking. I did want to mention one quick thing.
We have 1 minute.
Okay. What I call the programs at the library, I call them behind the scenes of the walk and the book.
I see. And so you can meet Joe Thursday at the New Bedford Public Library, August the 7th, 6:30. Is there a website people can go to?
Oh, yes. I get killed for not saying this all the time. Route6walk.com. ROUTE number 6walk.com.
Thank you so very much. What a delight and a pleasure.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe and Pat Hurley, thank you so much for joining us here. And thank you for the publicity you gave us also in this area. 10 million steps on Route 6. And I think he counted each one of them, folks. A fresh look at America and Americans from Cape Cod to California. Joe Hurley, and photos by Travis Lindhorst. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. I want to once again say thank you for all of us for yesterday's beautiful reception. Stay tuned for Taylor Cormier, who's coming up at 3 o'clock this afternoon, who will continue taking your phone calls, and you can obviously reminisce about yesterday. Again, if you'd like to meet Joe and Pat, are you going to be there as well?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
She collects the money.
She collects the money. I understand. I have a Pat in my family, too. It's this Thursday. And then, once again, in Mattapoisett on the 13th, and then on the 11th in Dartmouth. Folks, you need to go by and pick up a copy of 10 Million Steps on Route 6. I'm sure Joe and Pat will be more than happy to say hello to you.
I should say one thing. This is not in the bookstores. You got to get through the website or at the programs. Or contact me.
That's very good to know. So it's not in the bookstores. So please do come out and meet Joe. You're a fascinating man. Thank you so much. It was a personal delight. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Joe.